Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very empowering show coming right up with special guest Denise Mange, and she's here today to share with us Pet Prana, all about pet readings, energy work, and pet numerology. After a decade of working with some of the most prestigious advertising agencies in New York, Denise left the glitz and glamour of Madison Avenue to pursue a true sense of fulfillment and soul purpose. She found working with dogs to be just that calling. Upon certification through traditional dog obedience training programs, she realized there had to be more she could do to honor the connection between dogs and their humans. As a certified dog trainer, pet intuitive, pet numerologist, and founder of Pet Prana, Denise now works with thousands of dogs and their people across the nation to have better connection. So let's welcome to the show, Denise Mange.
Thank you so much for having me. I love being in your hands. I always have so much fun doing interviews with you.
Oh, my goodness. We always have such a great time. I'm so excited that we get to do this again, you know?
Exactly.
Well, there's nothing more fun than talking about animals and Pet Prana, which is kind of what you're all about.
Absolutely. This is, my soul's calling, my soul's purpose, and my passion. And the beauty in it is that, my soul's purpose and my passion isn't like model trains. It's animals, which so many people share that same passion. So whenever I get to talk about my work and what I love to do, I know that it lights up a lot of people's hearts as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, for our listeners that are new to you, why don't you share with us, how did you get started on this path? Because I know initially you were on Madison Avenue, and now you are working with dogs and humans. So I'd love for you to share that with us.
Absolutely. So, just as you said, I started a very traditional career in advertising. And in retrospect, it was actually the perfect job because advertising is all about kind of reading the room and understanding motivations and understanding what people need, even, when they can't talk about it themselves, when they can't really put it in words. So advertising was the perfect playground to explore tapping into energies, tapping into what people really mean behind their words, and understanding how to find common ground. And that's really what led me into my work with the pets. After 10 years of working in advertising, I got a bit burnt out. And, it's one of those things where if you're not living your authentic life, your shelf life is very limited. So I had the benefit of knowing that I've always loved animals. So when I left advertising, I thought, I'm in New York City. I would love to work with animals. What's, the best thing out there? And I thought a doggy daycare would be a perfect opportunity to work with animals because people work crazy hours and the animals need a place to run around, especially the pups. So I thought, and so I thought, since I grew up and I didn't have a lot of experience with having a traditional pet myself, that I better learn about, dog behavior and dog training. So I went through a traditional dog obedience certification program, fell in love with the opportunity to work one-on-one with, pets and their humans, and then started my own dog training business from there.
Well, and so what sets you apart from other dog trainers? Because I know you have a totally different approach.
I do. It was really quite a natural progression because as I started working one-on-one with pets and their humans, we covered a lot of the traditional training, teaching them basic obedience commands, how to sit, how to stay. I was in New York City, so, on-leash reactivity was something, the dogs barking on the street or reacting to other dogs or bicycles. That was a big one, as was separation anxiety because, people in New York City work crazy hours. So I knew I had been certified in ways to manage those behaviors through traditional positive reinforcement training, but I started realizing that it wasn't working. Traditional training on its own wasn't working anymore because as I was interacting with the humans and the pets, I started picking up on a lot of energetic cues and kind of getting intuitive hits on what was really going on behind the behavior. Because what's so interesting is that our animal companions, in every, nuzzle or bark or, any behavior they're displaying, they're actually reflecting back to us energy that they're picking up about, that is in our aura, in our environment, and they're helping bring attention to what needs to be healed.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that because pets are so intuitive. I mean, when my dog Maxwell was alive, if someone came near us that he thought was a little shady, he would bark at them, and he wasn't a barker, so he would be like, "Rrr," so they really pick up, yeah, and try to imitate his growl, but you really, it's interesting what they pick up because a lot of times they get stuff that we don't even get.
That's so true because, in order to survive in nature, animals have to learn to read energy. If there's another dog approaching the pack or, whatever it may be, they have to read into the body language, into the energy to see if that animal is approaching them is, sick or aggressive or, what their intentions are. And the funny thing is that, all animals have that ability and humans are animals. We're socialized animals, but we're animals. And we have that intuitive ability. Growing up, we are raised with a lot of limiting beliefs, be polite, be nice. A lot of the limiting beliefs that society ingrains with us kind of dissuade us from trusting our gut instinct. And that's where our animal companions are amazing at helping us tap back into our energy and our gut instinct and trusting it. That's energetically is the number one way we communicate with our animal companions. One of the things I always tell pet parents is, there's two ways you can ask a dog to sit. You can be like, hey, buddy, can you sit? Let's sit now. Let's sit. And that's a very different energy than, hey, buddy, sit. Thank you. Good listening, right? It's not that we're bossing them around, but they love to be our dress rehearsal to help us meld our energetic intentions with how we project ourselves into the world. They're really helping us step into our authentic, benevolent leadership, whatever that may look like for, a specific person. With dog training, a lot of the benevolent leadership has been rooted in dominance and kind of bossing our dogs around and really standing in a masculine energy. And what I've really brought to the table and learned is that that's not it at all. It's not about being dominant or forceful or masculine. It's really about being authentic. And being I'm a slight woman. I'm, 120 pounds, 5'6". If a dog wants to, have a tete-a-tete, based on pure brute force, they're going to win every time. So what I found is that when I'm working with a dog, if I'm being authentic, if I'm speaking to them in love, if I'm coming from a synergistic, collaborative place, they respond because all they want us to do is say what we mean what we say, and embody it. So I always say benevolent leadership sometimes can be the strongest way to show leadership is with a whisper. If you're in the middle of a situation with your animal companion where they're reactive on leash to another person, I can go, sit, 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 all I want. But sometimes leadership means coming from a place of compassion, meeting them energetic where they are and just saying, little one, sit, we're okay, we've got this. And that's the leadership that they need, and that's the kind of leadership I provide. And so it's really about tapping in to understand who you are as an authentic leader so that you can translate it more broadly, not only with your pets, but to your life with your relationships, with other humans, with your friends, and at work. So our relationship with our pets is such a gift in helping us understand who we are and really developing on our spiritual path.
And how important is that? Because I know you also talk about how pets' behavior, they help provide clues to bigger energetic problems in our life and help us see the world in a totally different light. And I'd love for you to expand on that.
Yeah, so that's a beautiful way to build upon what we've talked about so far. Because, when I approach dog training or, living, connecting with our animal companions, because sometimes it goes beyond training. It's all about collaboration and synergistic energy. And our animal companions are really acting as little guides for us. There are the cutest little furry guides we have that are helping us on our spiritual path. So instead of looking at their behaviors and coming at it from a point of separation, like they're doing this to me, or maybe I'm doing this to them, I'm hurting them by being at work so much, let's look at their behaviors as clues to what energy and patterns in our life need to be explored more broadly. So as we all are on our path of spiritual growth and development, we all have certain themes that come up over and over in our lives. But sometimes if we have to sit back and almost, self-diagnose or look at what's going on in our lives, it's too overwhelming. It's hard to see the forest through the trees. So the gifts that our animal companions have shared with us is by demonstrating certain behaviors. I've created a roadmap which links them to certain chakras and universal themes associated with each. So it helps us understand, like, okay, my dog's barking. Great, let me look at issues of the first chakra. And this all came about because as I was working with a lot of unleashed dogs in New York City who were reactive, I started realizing patterns in the home and in the human. And I started realizing that, the dogs who were most reactive on leash and traditional training wasn't fully working for them. A lot of times the humans were a bit ungrounded. Maybe they were, they weren't very secure in their relationship with their partner. Maybe they were in between jobs. Maybe they didn't know if they wanted to be in New York City anymore. There was a lot of kind of, feeling knocked off their feet, like they weren't fully grounded in their reality. And I started realizing, wow, that's issues around the first chakra. That's issues around, security, safety, being tethered into your reality, being tethered to Mother Earth and being grounded. And as we started working energetically with the humans and talking about what was up for them, I started seeing improvements in the animal companions. So that's an example how a dog's on-leash behavior can point back towards an energetic theme in our life, helping us using that as a jumping off point. It's a lot easier if we have a roadmap to use as a jumping off point than having to look at our life and being like, gosh, what's wrong with it? What's feeling unsettled? That can be really nebulous and hard to pinpoint. So our animal companions are just providing that mirror for us.
Yeah, so if your pet's looking at you with a funny look, it's probably you, not them, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because, one thing that I think is always really important to say is, as humans start getting this notion of, oh my gosh, my pet's reflecting back something bigger in my life, whoa, then sometimes that can be shadowed and peppered in with a little bit of guilt, like, oh man, so you're saying that if I had been more grounded or, more certain, or I looked at these issues before, maybe my dog would have been happier. And that's not the case at all. Because what happens is, just as humans come into our lives to help us work on certain lessons and, they're with us for certain chapters, so are our animal companions. We have these sacred contracts where our animal companions also are working on energetic themes and, their self-development. So before we even embodied, we've connected energetically, and our animal companions say, hey, I have to learn about themes of grounding and responsibility and that kind of thing. So do you. Let's work on it together. So I like to think of it as a group project. No one's doing anything, to anyone, or no one's a victim in the situation. It's like we all read the same book, and instead of writing separate book reports, we're going to do a group project together.
I love that. Well, and you touched on something just a little bit ago that I would love for you to talk a little bit about, because a lot of times when people think about well-being, energy, and our pets, they don't really think about their chakras. And so How does working with our pets and chakras and numerology actually help us to be more fully open to our intuition with them and kind of learn a little bit more about ourselves?
That's a great question. So everything in the natural world is a catalyst for us to grow from. I like to say every experience holds a lesson and a gift within it. Whether the experience is painful or pleasing or easy or heavy, there's always a gift to be garnered. And the way that you garner these gifts is you take an observer stance. When we're in the thick of the experience and we're feeling all these emotions, we can get lost in it. But if we can take a step back and look objectively at what pattern's playing out, what energy is popping up, then we can really learn that gift and kind of learn in the moment rather than after 20 years of therapy. So the chakra system to me has always been very familiar because in high school I was certified as a Reiki healer. And so the chakra system is basically an energetic cheat sheet, right? There are vortices of energy that start at the base of our spine, and there's 7 major ones that go base of our spine into our belly, into our solar plexus, and there's one at our heart, our throat, third eye, and at the top of our head, the crown chakra. And each of these chakras and energy vortices are associated with a different physical, organ in our body, different health conditions, but also different emotional themes that are universal. So the first chakra has to do with themes around I am and grounding and survival. The second chakra, which is in, the navel area, has to do with emotional issues around I feel. And so it has to do with themes of, guilt and balancing our needs with other people's needs, martyrdom. The third chakra has to do with energetic themes around I do. So it's all about taking action and responsibility and how you show up in your life and what you create and put out into the world. The fourth chakra has to do with universal themes around I love, which are about themes in our lives that have to do with intimacy, vulnerability, self-love and self-care, emotional boundaries, how we protect ourselves, but how we let others in. The fifth chakra, which is my favorite, has to do with energetic themes around I speak and I'm heard. So how do you authentically project yourself into the world? How can you be that authentic leader? And the fifth chakra is what the animals help us with so much. The sixth chakra has to do with energetic matters around I see. So it's the third eye, it's vision, it's intuition. It also has to do with shape shifting and putting yourself in other people's shoes, so I see their perspective as well. The seventh chakra has to do with energetic themes around I understand. So that's kind of understanding the big picture. You're seeing those patterns, you're seeing the role in the universe, and you're seeing how it all comes together. So each chakra not only is associated with a universal theme, but it's also associated with a color, with a number, with a vibrational frequency, with an earth element. So there's so many different clues in the world that can point us back to those universal themes and chakras. So if you're a visual person and you see a lot of numbers, for example, you're always picking up on like, oh, wow, my receipt was, $8.88 today. Or, the clock is always getting your attention at 11:11. Those are ways that the universe is communicating with you and creating a lexicon. So the same way that we want to be authentic in our energy and create a common language with our animal companions, we want to do that with the universe so that we can get these messages, and every single color, shape, number, pet behavior, all these things throughout our day are signs pointing us back to, hey, you're doing great on these things, or hey, this is a pattern that maybe it's time to look at so that your life can kind of get to the next level. It helps us get unstuck. It helps us grow. And the beautiful part is that we create this private, beautiful, magical language with our animal companions, with colors, with nature, with the universe, and anything that resonates in us.
I think that's so fabulous. I mean, because, when we think about our chakras, we don't realize how important those are. And then when we have that in relationship to our pets, and their chakras and our chakras, it's like, ooh, there's a lot of dynamics that's going on there.
Right. And that's why I always say, some of our most important guides in our self-development and spiritual development are our animal companions, because that's an easy first access point, right? If you told me like, okay, Denise, you're going to have to live life and you're going to start looking at numbers and you're going to be, everything in your life is going to have significance, I'm going to be like, oh, that sounds really overwhelming. But if someone says, hey, Denise, you want to connect more deeply with your animal companion, I'm in. So they kind of get us to start connecting through them, and then they open our eyes to a more beautiful, more fulfilling universe. So they are just our earth angels, not only because they're furry and wonderful and we love cuddling with them, but they really help us expand our intuition and awareness.
So let's talk about numerology for a minute. So how do you use this with pets? Because I am totally curious about how this works.
So I love numerology because I'm an incredibly visual person, and I'm also very pragmatic. so sometimes, if I'm trying to get, an intuitive hit, numbers are the best way for the universe to get my attention. And so each number carries its own unique traits and vibration, right? And so when we look at a pet's name or our name, it's made up of a series of letters, right? And so each letter is assigned a different number based on its place in the alphabet. And in numerology, we have numbers 1 through 9. And so A is the first letter in the alphabet, so that would be assigned the vibration of 1. B is the second letter in the alphabet, so it will be assigned the vibration of 2. But what happens when we get into double digits, right? So M happens to be the 13th letter in the alphabet. So what we do is we simplify that down to a single digit. 1 plus 3 equals 4. So M gets the 4 vibration. So with each name, whether it's our name or a pet's name, we can mathematically figure out the vibration of their name. And it's fascinating because the way this first came up for me is I started doing that traditional training in New York City, and I started getting a lot of dogs with the same name who had similar behavioral issues. So I've never met a Leo who doesn't have separation anxiety. And the reason for that is if you look at the vibration of their name, Leo carries the vibration of a 5. Right? And so the 5 vibration is carries the vibration of transformation and change, but also kind of the freedom-loving adventurer. So those 5 animal companions who hold that vibration, they have tendencies and traits where they want to experience new things. They want to go on adventures with you. So when they're left behind in the crate, they're bummed out. They're going to let you know about it. So if I go into a training session, I always pull the numerology. If I know the vibration of an animal companion is a 5, I know, okay, we're not going to do the same 3 commands over and over. We're going to create variety in the experience. We're going to have games. We're going to go in various different locations. Maybe one day we do training in the home. Other days we do, training at Home Depot. It helps us understand how to best connect with them, what their lessons are here, because every number carries its own unique vibration and also themes and lessons. And it helps us understand their role in our life, because when we compare our numbers and our soul's vibration and numerology to our animal companions, we can see where our numbers correlate and where we fulfill each other, where we kind of complete each other, other half, like what we're missing. So it's really a beautiful way to look at our relationship through numbers.
So let's say you're going to start working with somebody, and you say that you kind of look up their names and you're doing that. Is it the same if someone's coming to you to find out what their pet numerology is? Do you do that?
I absolutely do. So I provide, with numerology, for me, it's been so helpful and insightful that I use it as a tool during my training. But I do a lot of energetic portraits as well, where we look at the numerology of the animal companion and the human. And the animal companion can be with us, or it could have transitioned, but it helps us understand our karmic relationship, what our contracts were, how we relate together in this life. And it's just super insightful. It's a shorthand like, astrological signs are for people. You kind of understand your role together, how you fit together, how your tendencies work. And the beauty of numerology goes beyond the numbers, because as you give your, masculine side and left side of the brain something to calculate, that's when the divine feminine and the intuition really flows. So as you're adding up those numbers, it's amazing the insights and depth of intuitive hits that you get about the relationship together. So it's really a magical formula to be calculating together. Numbers are so magical. I've fallen in love with them.
Now, you talked about the vibration and themes of specific numbers. Do you care to share a little bit of that with us, like what some of those would look like so our audience can get a better sense?
Absolutely. So again, we're talking about numbers 1 through 9. Those are kind of the basic numerology. And then we have a couple master numbers, which I can talk about in a second. But there's a lot of energetic shorthands for the actual energetic vibrations that each number carry. And the one that I really like are borrowed from Michelle Buchanan. So 1 carries the energy of an independent individual. They're kind of a self-starter. They tend to bring up matters of grounding, either, animal companions or humans with a lot of 1s in their name. They're either have very grounded energy, or if they're out of balance, they're completely ungrounded and they need to get back to that grounding. They tend to be a bit stubborn, independent. They're also the ones who bring new ideas into the world. So anytime you see 1, that's kind of a number that indicates new self-starter, new paths, new ways. If we look at the energy behind 2, that tends to be the number of a cooperative peacemaker. And so 2 is really all about balance. It's the yin and the yang. It's finding balance between emotions and, logical thought. It's finding the balance between the masculine and the feminine in our lives and within ourselves. It also is a very diplomatic number. It wants to take in different perspectives and find that middle ground. It's very sweet and harmonizing, but one of the themes around 2 is being careful that you're not giving up yourself in interest of, what you think other people need. And this is really important for pet parents, because a lot of pet parents kind of overgive of themselves, and then we see boundary issues. Number 3 carries the energy of a self-expressive creative. We're actually in a 3-year with 2019, so people might have heard a lot about 3 being a number of a transformation and a catalyst and creativity. And so 3 is a super powerful number, in nature. In a lot of religions, you have the triad, and it really is about that father, mother, son. It's about, the 3 that come together and create this, amazing power. The triangle is a beautiful symbol of the 3, and it's super powerful and mystical. If we're looking at the energy of 4, that's the energy of a dedicated worker, right? It's about they tend to be, they love routine, especially animal companions with 4. Oh my goodness, if you do not serve them dinner at the exact same time or take them on the walks, if you're 1 minute late, they'll let you know about it. And so 4 is kind of about structure and balance and, those emotional boundaries around your heart and vulnerability, but it's really about creating new structures. It's about the community. 5 carries the energy of a freedom-loving explorer. It's about wanting to adventure, experience new things, and so one of the big lessons and themes around 5 is when you have that desire to explore and fly and, be part of new cultures and experiences, how do you stay grounded? How do you get back to those themes of the 1? And that's a big challenge that we see with the number 5. 6 is all about the responsible caregiver. So 6, if you feel into the energy, it's about being loving, nurturing. Some of the lessons are learning to care for yourself, but also give to others. It has a lot of themes around parenthood, motherhood, shape-shifting, putting yourself in other people's shoes. Which 6 is a very strong number that a lot of animal companions bring into our lives, because a lot of us didn't get that nurturance and love in other relationships. So our animal companions bring that to us. 7 is amazing. It's about the contemplative truth seeker energy. It's about exploring the mysteries of the universe, understanding, our role in the cosmos. And it has this mysticism. Animal companions who have the vibration of 7, I usually call them the philosopher kings of the animal world, because they're really here helping us understand our spiritual development. They're the ones who want to meditate with us. When we're looking at the energy of 8, that's the beautiful leader. And animal companions with 8, good Lord, they will make you step into your leadership like no other, because they know who they are, they're confident, they have a very wonderful balance between masculine and feminine, and they're beautiful in the physical and the spiritual. And they're not going to let you off the hook. So if you've called in an 8 animal companion, you are ready for some big transformation and stepping into your power. The vibration of 9 is an old soul compassionate. And I always think of that as elephant energy. It's the Mother Teresa of the animal world. It carries the vibration of compassion, bringing higher perspectives down to earth, and just really having a big open heart and bringing that divine energy down into our everyday lives. So those are some of the traits and themes around the numbers, and they relate as much as they do to humans, as they do to the animals, and any other situation in our lives, really. Those vibrations are familiar to everyone. We all carry aspects of them within ourselves, but depending on our name, some are stronger tendencies than others.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with CEO of Pet Prana, Denise Mange, in regards to pet readings, energy work, and pet numerology. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest Denise Mange, CEO of Pet Prana, and she's here today to share with us pet readings, energy work, and pet numerology. Now, before we went for break, I had a couple of questions that just kind of popped up. A lot of times people, they have misconceptions about certain numbers, such as 13 or 666. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that because when I started getting into numerology, I started seeing 666, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? You know, having grown up in a Christian background, I was like, oh boy. So I really looked into that a bit more, and in reading more about 666, I learned that, you know, in the Bible, around the time of Revelations, that was used in a very, very clever way. It was less about making sure that, there was no judgment to it. It was about, in the biblical world, 7 meant perfection. That meant you're great. 666 was a little bit of a slight that meant they're not quite perfect. They'll never be quite perfect. And the reason the theologists believe that is because a lot of them believe it was associated with the emperor's name, Nero Caesar, which if you translate into Hebrew and you pull the numerology of it, it adds up to 666. And Nero Caesar at the time, was considered very beastly and very worldly and, it very decadent. And so in the Bible, when they say beware of 666, it was actually talking to Christians about, make sure you don't fall into that lifestyle because he's always going to be a 666. He'll never be a 7. So in that, it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek, clever way to, bash the emperor while, saying that Christianity, that's the 7. So it was really interesting, and it's a huge wake-up call for us to create our own lexicon with the universe, because now when I see 666, it's a reminder to me that you are so loved and nurtured in that Mother Mary, beautiful motherly energy. There's no other association with it. That's the lexicon I've created. So if there's any numbers that, whether it's in your culture or by personal association, you have negative associations with, getting to know the numbers and working with the universe allows you to create a new way to communicate about them and new associations.
Yeah, it's so interesting how true it is when we do a little bit more research or look into what really some things that we have negative connotations about, what it's really about. It's usually quite different than what we expect.
Exactly. And so this is so empowering because these are ways that the universe says, are you going to take this for granted or are you going to make up your own story? Because in life, our animal companions are really ultimately encouraging us to be co-creators of our reality, to write our own story, not rely on old, limiting beliefs that have been passed down to us. So every single, element in our life can be an opportunity to re-examine, be like, did I believe that or was I told that? And if I was told that, is there something else I believe that serves me better? So in that way, we really can use everything in our world as a way to propel us into more spiritual growth and authenticity and connection to ourselves and our truth.
Well, and on all this topic of numerology, I know I'm bouncing around here, but one of the things that's interesting, you talk about being a visual person, and I'm one too. Mm-hmm. So how does numerology provide energetic clues for you?
So, okay, I love that you asked that because this, again, has to do with creating our own associations. So when I'm creating my own shorthands to understand and get to know the numbers better, I also look at how they look. So if we look at the number 2 on a piece of paper, the head of the 2 and the tail of the 2 are pointing in opposite directions. It's the same with 5. The head, it starts at the right and it ends, looking out to the left. And not coincidentally, both numbers have to do with exploring different perspectives and experiences. And the challenge around those numbers is to ensure that they're synthesizing the different points of views and experiences in a way that actually helps us build our authentic self rather than be scattered. So even visually, we have that clue. Or even if we look at Roman numerals, 4 is represented by an I and a V, which to me visually represents learning to put yourself, the one, the I, before others, which is, to me, the V represents others. And it's about making yourself a priority. But then if we look at 6 in Roman numerals, that's represented by a V and then followed by an I. And 6 really holds those lessons around caregiving and learning to put others before yourself. So there's so many ways that when we study and interact with the numbers, there's so many clues. It almost feels like it's too good to be true. You're like, no, it couldn't be. And then the themes are actually, when you do more research, you're like, oh my God, that's exactly what that number is about. So, it becomes fun. Like, self-growth and, self-development, it needs to be fun. It needs to be lighthearted. And when you really start taking that observer stance, you realize the universe has left all these little breadcrumbs for you to pick up.
And isn't that just beautiful? Because it's you can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's interesting when you catch these aha moments of everything coming together.
Right. I know. And it all starts with our little furry friends. They get us to start seeing the world, slightly differently, and then everything just opens up.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and so when we look at because I really kind of want to help boil this down a little bit. So when we talk about the vibrations behind the specific numbers, and are there like limiting beliefs that we can use numerology with to help process and heal what's going on?
Absolutely. So again, we talked about numerology. The base numbers are 1 through 9.
Mm-hmm.
We also have 7 major chakras. So the first chakra is associated with the number 1 and 8. The second chakra is associated with numbers 2 and 9. The third chakra, number 3, fourth chakra, 4, fifth chakra, 5, sixth chakra is associated with 6, and the seventh chakra, obviously 7. So anytime we're seeing, 888 pop up or, 4s pop up a lot, we can always go back to the chakra it's associated with and look at the energetic themes associated with each. So if we're seeing a lot of 4s, we can go back to that fourth chakra and look at the themes around I love and self-care. So we might look at, some limiting beliefs that are more specific, such as, I don't feel I'm worth of the compassion that I show others. Or I'm scared that if others saw my vulnerability, they would leave me. There's a lot of different limiting beliefs associated with each chakra. So that's why I love the chakras, because you can always go back to them. Colors point to the chakras. Numbers point to the chakras. Our animals' behaviors, I've mapped out against the chakras. So anytime you're stumped, go back to them and their universal themes.
Okay, so let's say that there's a particular theme that's going on between a person and their pet, their dog, and you work on the dog. Does that also make slight adjustments in the person?
Absolutely. Our energy is intertwined. So as we work in a mindful way with our animal companion, and that means that we're acknowledging that somewhere in that behavior, our energy is imbued, right? It's not a place of separation. It's not only the dog's issue. Whatever the animal is presenting has implications for me. So as we work with our animal companion from a traditional training standpoint and looking at the energy of what's going on behind the energy, we're healing our animal companions and ourselves. And that's really the magic. That's what they're here to do with us. And, once we get to those things, we're like, okay, I saw that, my dog has guest reactivity, which I've linked with the fourth chakra. I'm seeing a lot of 4s. That's the fourth chakra. Got it. So let me look at the themes. Yep. I love intimacy, self-care. Let me get into some of the limiting beliefs. Got it. Now what, right? Because it's sort of like, well, great. I've kind of pinpointed it, but how do I go forward? And that's where 4 simple questions can really help us heal and get to the root of what's going on in the energy. And I always say, if you're working with your animal companion, say they have that guest reactivity, they're barking at people coming into the home or they're hiding, when you think of that presenting issue in your pet, their behavior, what emotions come up for you? And so it might be shame, it might be frustration, you just really want to feel into what's coming up for you. Once you've kind of established what that emotion is, the second question you want to ask yourself is, where else in your life do you experience similar emotions? Does this emotion elicit any memories, any past experiences, or broader patterns in your life? And it might have been that, that emotion of that frustration and that shame and that fear, but that's bringing me back to when I was a kid and someone came over to the house and I just knew they weren't, a good person. And I told my mom that, and she told me to hush up, and that's rude, and to be polite, and we don't say that to adults. So it might bring me right back to that spot. Once we've gotten to that place, we say, what is the belief that characterizes this experience or pattern? And I might go deep and I might say, that moment taught me that I'm not to trust my instinct, that I need to be polite over trusting myself. And so then we're like, okay, well, that's pretty deep. We might say, the last question you want to ask yourself is, are you ready to change the story? And that's where sometimes we're not, right? Because being polite gets you far in society and it served you well. And sometimes you're like, you know what, I'm not ready to face that authenticity. I know that's an issue. I'm going to table it for now, but I'm not ready to face it. And that's okay. But if you are ready to change the story, you might say, all right, every time my dog's reactive and I'm feeling that experience, I'm going to remind that little girl, I'm going to say, listen, little one, your instincts are true and right. Always honor your instincts. And even just telling yourself repeatedly on a regular basis creates a new story and a new shift, and you'll see it play out more broadly in your life. So that's an example of how, your dog's barking at people coming into your home might really create a deep healing for you.
Well, isn't that something that we all want? I mean, kind of look at these different things that are going on with our beloved pets and our dogs and going, okay, you're barking at people. There's a message here. It's a broader message, and I should really be able to get this. If not, then people can work with you to kind of work through it, right?
Exactly. So I created a course called Healing with Chakras, and it's an online 7-week course with, we go through each chakra and each pet behavior that's associated with that chakra. And we do the traditional training. We learn with how-to videos how to manage the behavior because traditional training is important. But then we also look at the energy going on behind it. What are themes that we want to revisit that are either working for us or that we want to shift? So it's a beautiful way to just look at where you are with your animal companion and see, what they're trying to tell you and how you can leverage it to improve your life. Even if they're not having any behavioral issues, it's still great to re-examine these universal themes that come up in our lives, on a daily basis. And it's interesting because I am a pet intuitive. I do animal communication. And each animal communicator gets different kinds of information. Some are medical intuitives and they get, oh my gosh, okay, your dog's patella has slipped out of place and, this is what you have to do. And, or, this vertebrae in their spine is off. There's other pet intuitives who get more about the pet, like, oh, I like to play with this ball. I would like to have this bed, or, I like to be in this room. For me, the animals have always brought up what's going on energetically with their humans, because they really, when the humans heal those patterns and move past them, so do the animal companions. So it's been a really interesting journey from traditional dog training to adding in the energy and then seeing how it all combines and works together to, propel us on our path in the universe.
I can only imagine because, it's interesting. Even, because I was pretty close with my dog, but, even as somebody that has done energy work, I kind of look at this and it's like I could never really discern what was going on. So a lot of times we need that outside person to go, okay, this is what's happening here. And, you know if it's, what's going on because it resonates with you.
Absolutely. And, I haven't pulled Maxwell's numerology, but I see that within his name he has an 11. And 11, numerology is actually one of the master vibrations. So we talked about the numbers 1 through 9 and, their tendencies. And then when we get to numbers that add up to 11, 22, or 33, those are considered master vibrations. And it just means that you have the opportunity to vibrate at a higher level, to learn the lessons of the base numbers and kind of bring that higher vibration to those around you. So the 11 master number carries a lot of bridge energy, channeling energy, catalyst energy, getting you from one spot to the other. And so Maxwell was that for you. It was a little bit of that getting you to the next point in your spiritual development. And I haven't calculated what his overall vibration of his name, but it's always important to also look at the vibrations that make up the overall number. And that 11 is always a magical number with animal companions.
I'm not surprised. That dog taught me so much. It wasn't even funny. You intuitively
they call it the inspiration.
Yeah. They call it the what?
The inspirational teacher is that 11 vibration. So it sounds like Maxwell fit the bill.
Oh my God. And then some, yeah. Half the time I'm like, he's just waiting for me to get it, Come on.
Aww.
Come on, I know you can get this.
And it's interesting because, just right off the bat, I know your name starts with an MA, and so does his. And your name actually had pulled the numerology, and it vibrates at the overall vibration of a 3. But within it, your first name starts with, Marianne, it starts with a 4, which is the number of the heart. So I know everything you do is led from the heart. And then there's a really interesting combination of 1 and 9 and 9 and 1, kind of mirrored and reflecting within your name. And that shows that you have as much of this kind of old soul compassion for yourself as you do for others, which is a beautiful vibration to hold for humanity. Because a lot of times if you only have compassion for others, there's a lot of sadness and tears because it's almost like you're seeing like the state of humanity. But with that balance, you hold this wonderful compassion for humanity as well as awe for humanity. And then the last 3 names of your number carry the vibration of 555, which is that adventurer, explorer. You want to find out new perspectives. So the fact that you are doing a podcast and you're interviewing people and asking them about what they do and bringing it to the masses, that's right in your numerology. 3 is the number of the creative, expressive, and the catalyst. So you are being creative, you're putting your work out there, and you're creating transformation for a lot of people. You're living based on your soul's vibration. It's beautiful.
Aw, well, I was not expecting that, but thank you. My goodness, I should have contacted you like 10 years ago,
But it's beautiful because with Maxwell, he also has that 4-1 in his beginning numbers. And so I know that he also was incredibly he led with the heart as well. And I think that's why you two called each other in. You got each other. You got the heart language. And then he was waiting for you to catch those other lessons he was bringing for you.
Oh, for sure. He was a silent watcher,
Oh, I love that. How cute.
Well, and so, my goodness, what a beautiful combination that you offer. It's very unique. There's not a whole lot of people, there are a lot of people out there that do numerology, but not in the combination that you do, that you include with the pets and this beautiful relationship that we have with them. It's very co-creative.
It is, and I just feel so blessed that I get to, be part of this. Really, the animals brought through all this information for me, tied in with anyone who's linked to star families. This also carries a lot of Pleiadian energy, which is healing around emotions and that unconditional love. So I really feel lucky that I was entrusted with this information, and I'm so passionate about sharing this with other pet parents. Because pet parents tend to be incredibly intuitive. They just don't give themselves credit for it. But the second they hear this information, something shifts in them. They're like, oh my God, of course. That makes perfect sense. Like I felt that I just didn't know how to verbalize it. So whether it's, using, looking at your pet's numerology versus your numerology or using the chakras based on your pet's behaviors, these are all ahas that you know within yourself. You hold that wisdom. I'm just helping you identify ways to tap into it.
Well, and so a few things that I want to talk about before we, leave today, because you do a lot of really great work. So I know we talked about there's the online, of course, my goodness. You do the online coursework, so people have that. They can get involved. They can learn about the chakras. What other coursework do you have that they can do?
Yeah, so the online courses that I'm most passionate about that you can't get anywhere else, I'm the only one doing this. So it's kind of exciting. It's really part of the new vanguard in pet guardianship. The first is the class Healing with Chakras, which we talked about, where you go through, 7 weeks. Each week we go through one chakra and a pet behavior and look at all the themes associated with each, the sacred geometry and numerology. And we learn traditional training, and we also do energetic work. The other online course that I love offering is called Translating Beyond Numerology. And if you were drawn to any of the numerology, we go through, we talk about the numbers, we have exercises where you create your own association with the numbers. And we pull a lot of numerology for people and the pets, for the people in the class. And it's like a workshop. We all do it together, then we talk about what we saw in the numbers. So it's really a way that I love helping you understand the numbers, but empowering you to learn how to pull the numbers and interpret the messages. And so that's something that I offer regularly. And then I also offer, if you're like, you know what, I'm in a spot where I need the messages. I do intuitive readings via the phone, and I provide recordings for people. And, we get together, we check in with your animal companion, we ask whatever questions you have, and we see what comes through. And it's been really transformative and beautiful for a lot of people.
Well, I can just imagine. I mean, the time we've shared, I feel, has been very transformative. I can imagine what it's like to spend that time having that, the remote sessions, where people are connecting with you in regards to themselves and their pets, so, and you also do pet readings. We didn't talk about what we talked about, but we didn't go right into it. So I'd love for you to share about the things that you offer for the pets specifically.
Yeah, so specifically for the pet, there's also, I do believe in traditional as well as the energetic. So I do offer a lot of how-to training videos on my website as well. That would be more specific for, the traditional aspects of dog training, because that's important. And then, pet readings, there are those intuitive sessions. We go in, we do a meditation to get into the space, and we see what your animal companion wants to tell you about your life together. Sometimes they bring up past lives. They've brought through humans who have crossed over who want to bring messages. So you never know what you get in these readings. And it's funny because no two are alike. And every time I do a reading, I'm like, well, that was new. So it's just this ever-evolving, amazing relationship that we get to have with our pets on a deeper level. And it's, it's interesting because, sometimes you look at your pet and you're like, oh, you're so goofy. You have a goofy personality. And then you tap in for the reading and they're like these Buddha gurus. And you're like, whoa, how did you bring forth that information? But it's just so beautiful. It's always with love and compassion and in honor of the growth that's ready to take place for you and your animal companion.
Isn't that the truth? Well, and what's great, because I know on your website, for those that are interested in getting their pet name numerology reading, you offer that and energetic portraits. And so why don't you share a little bit about that too?
Yeah, so with the pet numerology, there's a couple ways that we can do the reading. One is a quick consultation, and I work with a lot of pet parents who have new pets, whether they were rescues or new puppies, and they're between a couple names, and they're like, so what would I be calling in if I called my animal Leo versus if I called it, Sophie? And so we can look through and see, because we have the right to decide, what vibrations we want to call in at this point. So if you're between two names, you can't decide. Numerology is a great way for us to understand, what traits you might be encouraging, given one name over the other. And then the energetic portraits are a bit more involved. What they are is I pull the numerology of your name and your pet's name, and I pull the, destiny number, the karmic lessons, the life path number, and I compare them. And in it, the deliverable that you get is a beautiful collage. It's a portrait that a lot of people frame and have in their house. And it's got, visuals that represent your relationship, the symbolism, some of the totem animals that want to come through and support your relationship. And then separately, you get a write-up with a PDF explaining what the numbers mean. So it's a beautiful gift that a lot of people take advantage of, whether, they want to gift something special to someone who just adopted a pet, or maybe a pet who has transitioned, or maybe it's just the holidays. But it's, I've always been artistic and visual, so being able to create these collages just brings forth so many intuitive hits about what the role, you guys are playing in each other's lives.
Those are so beautiful. I'm so glad you shared that, because, my goodness, we've got Valentine's Day is next month, and for people who are looking like, what do you get your pet lover? I'm sorry, but I love flowers, but they die. Something like this is perfect because it lasts forever.
It is. And one of my newest additions to the Pet Prana offering, which I'm super excited about, are pet pendants. They're crystal pet pendants. and they're linked to each chakra. So if your animal companion or you know someone who's dealing with on-leash reactivity, you may want to get them a crystal pendant with a red stone, which is, amplifies the energies and balance in the first chakra. So they can be either just something to beautify your animal's life and space, or it can be to really assist with the pet behaviors. So, it's just so cool to see how this offering and this idea of pet prana and, all the ideas that the animals bring forth, it's just different ways to call in more harmony and higher vibrations into our lives together.
Well, couldn't we use some more of that? I mean, my goodness. Even if it's between us and our pets, that's a good place to start.
It is. They know us through and through, and they love us beyond as we do them. So, like I kind of started off with the interview, I'm so fortunate that this is my life passion because so many share that same love for pets and animal companions and even animals in the wild. They're so beautiful and so authentic, and they bring so much joy to our existence that I'm so lucky that I get to work and talk about them all day.
Well, hey, and Denise, before we get going here, where can our listeners connect with you, be part of your community? I know you have a podcast too. Where can they go and find all this great information and schedule time with you?
Absolutely. So my website is petprana.com. So you can always go there and check out, there's a lot of free gifts that I like to offer and resources. And also my services are listed there. And on social media, you can always follow me at Denise_trainer. And tag me in any pictures of your little ones. I always love to see little furry friends and what they're up to.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Denise, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh, thank you, Marianne. I just love the work you do, and talking to you is just like pulling up a cup of coffee and chatting with an old friend. So this has just been a blast. I could have gone on for another 5 hours.
We definitely could have. I mean, I've always enjoyed chatting with you. I know we're going to be doing this again. So, but
Yay.
Gosh, yeah, what a great way to start this new year by talking about numerology and our pets and pet prana.
I learned a lot today. And my goodness, you're so amazingly gifted when it comes to animals. If you'd like to connect with Denise, learn more about the work she does, or schedule a time for a pet reading, energy work, or pet numerology, feel free to visit her website, petprana.com. It's filled with great resources so that we can continue to make sure our four-legged friends are as happy as we are with them. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.